to discuss is Art Del Cueto and NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder. So, Tracy, I want to go to you first. A lot of these companies have been sued over and over and over again, TV companies, tech companies, for taking data without the knowledge of the user, for the language that they put into their user agreements about the way that data is shared, to the tunes of billions of dollars being paid out. And yet here we are now with this case, and of course we want assailants and suspects to be caught on video that is voluntarily placed on the outdoor of a home. But when it comes to this technology being used just to scan everybody at all times, people have some concerns.
Yeah, I can understand why people have concerns. Obviously, they feel like their rights are being violated. But at the same time, just to kind of counter that argument, people get just as upset when data is kept too private. I think back to the San Bernardino shooting where we thought that there may be an additional attack. And the FBI, we couldn't break into their phone. We couldn't get that computer data. We couldn't get that digital data to be able to stop a further attack. And now, granted, there wasn't one. But it's interesting because when, push comes to shove, people want that data and they want that data right away. But in everyday life, individuals want to be protected. So it's a really fine line that we need to walk.
Art, the video in this case has been one of the only things, at least publicly, that we know has moved this forward, even leading to questioning last night and detainment of a person south of Tucson in Rio Rico. It ended up being someone who's not related to this case. So this footage is very helpful to law enforcement, but there are big questions about how they were able to get it, considering the sheriff's department said at the beginning this ring footage was not connected, or this door footage was not connected to a subscription, therefore it wasn't on, we couldn't get it, and now they have it, which is good in this case. But again, when you're not talking about a specific crime and you're just surveilling everybody, people have questions about the control that these companies and the government may have over this kind of data and information.
No, absolutely. And look, in this case, it's great because they were able to obtain this and possibly break the case. However, we're at the same point here is how far is too far? How far is, there has to be some reasonable expectation of privacy. Plain and simple. And I'm saying it from a law enforcement perspective, okay? Yeah, there's certain things that we can do, there's certain things that we can't do, and we can't cross that line. And I think when, Google can flat out see everything you're doing, I mean, just think of everything you're doing with your phone, honestly, or where you're sitting down when you're looking at your phone. Now, potentially, you have that doubt that Google has that. And take, for instance, somebody that could be a celebrity. You don't know if for some kind of bad reason, somebody's gonna use that picture, that video to try to make some money. I mean, you just don't know. There needs to be a certain reasonable expectation of privacy that we should not cross.
Yeah. Well, switching topics, speaking of eyes in the sky, which is different but similar in some ways because of the camera angle, drones linked to Mexican cartels are flying overhead, and apparently they have been for years, not surprising. Border Reporter reported that in 2024, an average of 328 Mexican drones were spotted within 500 meters of the U.S. border. That's almost one every day for a year. Earlier, the White House confirmed that the airspace over El Paso, Texas, was closed temporarily due to a suspected cartel drone. It was shot down by the U.S. military using a high-energy laser system. And there you can see the drone falling out of the sky to the ground, in this case, which happened in New Mexico. But the bigger question remains, why is one of the largest organized terrorist organizations, as designated by President Trump, flying drones over the U.S.-Mexico border? I mean, this is something I've covered for years. You see this happening. There are more incursions that we don't get reported happening all of the time, and there are big concerns about the cartels using these drones to carry explosives, to do surveillance of law enforcement. What were your thoughts about what happened today?
Honestly, there's tons, and I'm glad it was captured and people are talking about it. But I can tell you, working down on the reservation, on the Tohono Reservation in Arizona, there was drones that would come into the U.S. constantly. There was agents that I'd be sitting. In fact, I was sitting out there with a reporter one night, and the drone came overhead. Another agent came around, and I asked the agent, what is that? And it was probably less than 50 feet above our head. And he said, that's a drone from Mexico. They're flying them into the United States constantly. They're using them for surveillance that we know of. But I mean, as we've seen in the video, they can use them for a lot more than just surveillance. But this has been going on for way too long.
Tracy, let's broaden this out a little bit in terms of what this means broadly with drone surveillance. We're looking at some photos here of explosive devices from the district attorney, Sam Bregman out of Bernardino County, New Mexico. So this is very alarming. This is on the U.S. side of the border. Explosives clearly connected to the Mexican cartels who, despite the fact that President Trump has shut down the border, are still trying to get this kind of material into the U.S. For whatever reason that they may need it. But more broadly speaking, given your experience with counterterrorism, which, again, the president has designated the cartels as a terrorist organization, there are big concerns by the government and by private companies that these types of drones could be used to attack a Super Bowl, to fly a drone over into a stadium with explosives, to drop it in that way. On the border, they're trying to utilize laser technology to shoot these drones down. But it's a very scary new proposition for people who worry about their safety when there's something flying over their head and they don't have anything to defend themselves against it.
I mean, 100%. I've seen that firsthand. So I was the very first armed drone operator going into Afghanistan. And it was interesting seeing the reaction that people on the ground had to an armed drone. And so I think it's just a matter of time. When I say armed drone, obviously right now, based on those pictures, they're essentially armed with crude explosives, right? Or IEDs essentially in the sky. That's what they're doing right now. And they've had this since about 2010. But I think for us to think, and I'm just going to put this out there, I don't mean to scare people, but for us to think that they're not going to be able to get their hands on at some point a Predator or a Reaper or a drone, an armed drone from another country like Iran, who really is pretty prolific in how they trade. We know they've given them to Venezuela. That is concerning. I do think our technology is developing to be able to intercept them. But what I saw today, what was concerning about today, was the communication crossing between the FAA. And so that was the issue.
Talk really quickly more about the communication problem. What happened there? What was the issue with the concern?
Well, yeah, it seemed obviously the FAA seemed to be upset that the Pentagon and Department of Defense hadn't really cleared how they were going to shoot down that drone with them. And then as a result, they couldn't really maintain the fact that civilians were going to be safe at the airport, right? And so you had that sort of banter back and forth. There's nothing wrong with either of those things, but the problem is when those lines get crossed, then we can't effectively deploy these methods against drones and stop them, which is ultimately what we want to do.
Yeah, Art, just real quickly before we go, it seems like a complication when you have an international border with a city there and Department of Defense and Border Patrol want to take precedent against a foreign object. But of course, the airport there is in local leadership.
Katie, it's even worse. It's a complication with the DHS themselves, because when an agent sees one of these objects, he has to go through his entire chain of command all the way to CBP in Washington and explain what's going on. And then that chain of command has to bring down the information all the way down. By then, the drone is back in Mexico.
Right. Okay. We will keep on it. Thank you very much, Tracy and Art, for all of your analysis tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.